One of the things that, I'm probably known for the most is, you see all these pictures of me, I'm out partying and I have like a bunch of girls with me. You might come to the hypothesis that the reason why I act that way is because in high school I got picked on by girls, and you would be completely right. That is what happened. In high school, dude, like these girls wouldn't piss on me if I was on fire. I was super unpopular. This is the example I use when I talk to women, and I'm like, hey, when you're talking to a guy, he's been poor his whole life, he starts making some money, and the first time he dates a playmate, what's he gonna do? He's gonna go date another playmate. And I use the Harold Little story because I'm like, when Harold Little dunked the ball, what do you think he did? You think he just, hey guys, thank you for watching me dunk the ball? It's like, no, he had a superpower now. Everybody would come out here like during lunch and watch him go dunk a basketball. And that's what happens to a lot of people. Like, you do this thing that gives you the superpower, you're gonna keep doing it over and over again. One of the things that happened was really funny is when I started working in Austin, I probably never told you the story. Several of my high school classmates came and apologized to me after high school because they were so mean. But to be fair, I talk too much. Which is ironic me saying this now. I was not a cool kid. Like, I was a tryhard. I was this massive tryhard growing up, and I don't blame them for not liking me. I really don't have a problem with some of the things that happened when I was in high school. Man, why do I like chicken fried steak so much? Why am I a Christian? Why do I listen to hip hop? Why do I like girls with big fake boobs? Why do I love football so much? Why am I so boisterous and outgoing? That's also kind of a Texas thing. I still say howdy. I still say ma'am and sir. Where do all these things come from? Did they come from my own free will, or did they come because of my upbringing? Like, you have to empathize why people have the positions that they do. Don't hate them. Don't think that they're weird. Like, when you can do that, you can come to some level of understanding. Then you understand like Palestine and Israel. You understand Ukraine and Russia. Mm-hmm. You understand like where these conflicts come, Sunni and Shia. You understand these conflicts between different peoples, the Jews, the Gentiles, the Catholics, and the Protestants. You understand where these things come from. Instead of hating these people, you say, okay, what happened in their upbringing? What happened in their adolescence? What traumas did they go through that caused them to believe what they believed? What's going on, guys? It is Thanksgiving today, and this is my brother Patrick,
hey.
and we are here at Woodrow Wilson High School. This is where I went to high school. I graduated from here in 1996. This is the second oldest high school in the city of Dallas, next to Crozier Tech. This building was built in 1929. You can smell the segregation on this thing, right? It's so funny that this high school, which is like 85% Hispanic, was named after a segregationist named Woodrow Wilson.
Woodrow.
It's pretty funny. So we just call it Dallas Wilson is what it's called, a 12-4A. The Dro. It was a 12-4A high school. But what's interesting about this high school, and why I wanted to come out here and talk to you guys about this, is we want to talk about like what were the things that affected us in adolescence and affected us in childhood, and maybe as a young adult, that later on changed our opinions and viewpoints later on. So a lot of us think that we came to our own viewpoints of our own free will, but we didn't. Like, for instance, my brother and I, we both listen to Southern hip hop. We listen to UGK and 3 6 Mafia, and we listen to the Ghetto Boys, and we listen to Big X the Plug, and it's not on accident. We grew up in Dallas, Texas. That's why we did that. My brother and I are both Protestants. The reason why we're Protestants is because we went to Wilshire Baptist Church when we were growing up over here in East Dallas, and there's a correlation. If you're Muslim, or if you're Jewish, or if you're a Christian, the likelihood that you're going to adopt the same religion as your parents is about 86%. So it's a very high likelihood. So what are the things, like, instead of just thinking, I'm a Republican and I believe in this and I like this, and thinking of it to your own free will, investigate what happened when you were younger that caused you to come to these beliefs, so it actually can help you understand why other people do other things. Have you seen those videos like in India where they're eating like goat heads, and they're eating like crickets, and you look at that and you're like, that's so crazy. But remember, that's how they grew up. So it's really interesting. Let's look at some of the things. I love American football. I love basketball because I grew up here in Dallas with the Mavericks and the Cowboys, and that's why we love those things. So we're going to go over a couple of those things, what happened. So first of all, I'm gonna let you guys know this high school is a lot nicer now. When I was here, there's a lot of gentrification. They've rebuilt a lot of the stuff here. There's a baseball field over there. There's a soccer field. When I was here, this was one of the poorest high schools I think you could have gone to. When I got here, my freshman year, we had 1,500 people total at Woodrow Wilson High School, and I graduated with a class of 80. So if you guys want to do the math there was about 425 people in my freshman class, and we graduated with 80 people. So the dropout rate was about 75-80% dropout rate. The reason why was because the majority of Woodrow Wilson spoke Spanish. Our English second language courses were humongous, and I was in all AP classes, and like there were probably fewer than 100 white kids that went here, something like that. Yeah. This school was probably 10 to 15% African American, to 80% Hispanic, and probably 5% white. That's what it was when I went here. We were the first school in DISD to have metal detectors, and because there was a shooting every year that I was here. Do you remember the story about the guy who brought the gun to picture day and shot himself in the leg? You remember that?
Yeah, no. Yeah. In the auditorium?
Yeah, in the auditorium. So he was in the auditorium, and he came and he was trying to show this pistol off to this girl, and he shot himself in the leg. And the reason why was because he worked at a facility over here. I believe there's like a elderly care facility, and he worked over there, and these gang members would bother him every day when we'd go to work. So he carried a gun with him to school. When I was a sophomore, one of my best friends, my two closest friends were Robert Pringle and Corey Montgomery. And Corey Montgomery got shot 4 times through the chest when he was a kid. Now, through the chest, it was a small caliber pistol. It was like a 22, but he got shot 4 times, went to the hospital. And I remember when he tried to come back the next year to play football, like he was never the same. But it was like one of these things where the shootings that we saw back here, the guy brought a shotgun to school, I think when I was a senior, and like it barely made the police report. Now, these are things that get reported all over the news. You see them on Fox News. They talk about gun control and school shootings and all this kind of stuff. I don't think the school shootings thing has even increased. I remember school shootings at Kimball, Carter. I remember school shootings at Madison, Lincoln, Skyline. These things would happen all the time, but they just never made the news back then, because when school shootings happen in the ghetto, no one gives shit. When school shootings happen at Columbine, then it becomes a big news story. Anyway, so I want to just go over like where it is that I came from. So we're going to walk around Woodrow Wilson. We're going to walk all the way around. Also, my junior high is here as well. And I just want to consider like a couple of things. One of the things that I'm probably known for the most is you see all these pictures of me. I'm out partying and I have like a bunch of girls with me. You might come to the hypothesis that the reason why I act that way is because in high school I got picked on by girls, and you would be completely right. That is what happened in high school, dude. Like these girls wouldn't piss on me if I was on fire. I was super unpopular in high school. The other thing is, in high school, one of the reasons I was a bad basketball player. I was a bad football player. Now those are my 2 favorite hobbies: are to go throw a football and to play basketball. When I was in high school, I remember all the other kids on the football team, they all were had bigger upper bodies than me. I had this skinny little arms, and so that's why I lift weights so much. And if you want to say that a lot of the things that I have now are overcompensations for what I went through in high school, you'd be completely correct. You got to ask yourself, did that happen to you? Were you a person who was maybe popular in high school, and so maybe you tried a little less when you got out? How did your high school experience or your junior high experience, these are like your formative years, especially junior high. These are like your formative years. How did they affect you? What about Pat? Pat, you went to Booker T. Washington part of the time, didn't you?
Yeah. I went to Arts Magnet after I left here. It was a little bit less of it. It was like more artistic and hippie type shit. We were just smoking weed, doing art, being creative. I liked it, honestly. I mean, there was not shootings, but there was no sport. So.
There were no sports at Arts Magnet.
No sports, but no shootings.
So here's
a nice trade.
Here's another thing I want to point out here. We're going to get where you can see it a little better. This is the football field at Woodrow Wilson. Now, when I went to high school here, we didn't have a football field. We had a pile of dirt. There was a big hole back over here, and I remember Coach Reese was just running one time, stepped in the hole and tore his ACL. The coach tore his ACL while we were walking through here. All we had was hard dirt. And we look at it now, and the school has AstroTurf. They have an actual track. We were just running on dirt for years. It was really funny when I see this. This over here, this baseball field and the soccer thing, this did not exist. But what happened was, for those of you who understand the history of the country, and mainly in the South, what happened in the late 80s and early 90s down here in the South is we had a crack epidemic. So from I'd say 88, 89, this is when you start seeing the Ghetto Boys and UGK. And I'm reading UGK's biography right now, and they talk about this idea of back in the late 80s, how they started selling crack in order to get time in the studio. Well, that affected all these southern cities. So that's Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Dallas, San Antonio, Houston. You saw a lot of that. And that's where you saw the Houston rap thing pop up, which was the time that we were in junior high and high school. And so what happened was, the other thing that happened is that these poor neighborhoods where Madison and Adamson, Kimball, Carter, these high schools in DISD, we had what's called black flight. Have you ever heard of that, Pat?
Yeah.
Black flight is where a lot of the black people in the city moved out to DeSoto. They moved out to Seagoville, Pleasant Grove, these different places. And these schools that used to be these powerhouses in football, all of a sudden were empty. And we were an example of that. Woodrow Wilson, like I said before, we started off with 1,500 students, and then we ended up graduating 83. My high school varsity football team had 17 guys on it. I want you to think about Texas 4A football. 5A is the biggest. 4A football with a squad of 17 guys. And you won't believe this, we went 0-10. I think we scored like 2 touchdowns that entire season. Damn. We just had no people. Oh man, look at that field. That is so beautiful. Like, I can't imagine. Dude, we used to run suicides on this big pile of dirt. There was no lines on it. Back in the day, this is crazy. This looks so crazy when I look at this. Look at that. That whole second part of the building over there. You see that over there? None of that existed when I was in high school here. You see all the glass up there?
Yeah.
None of that was here. Yeah. Anyway, so we had this whole southern hemisphere of Dallas, Texas. You had all these people just like leaving that part of the city because of the crime rate, etc. And you had schools like, I remember Lincoln High School ended up dropping from 4A down to 3A. A lot of these schools got really small. In fact, South Oak Cliff, I think, won a Texas State football championship, and they're the first team to do so from DISD in like 50 years, something, or no, since Carter did it a long time ago. Anyway, for those of you not from Dallas, a lot of these names aren't going to make sense to you, but we went to an independent school district. I'd say the DISD was like one of the worst in the country, because if you want to go back and look, I believe some of the executives in there went to jail for embezzlement. Do you remember that one janitor with the jerry curl who was selling dope here? Do you remember?
It sounds
there were two janitors. One of them was like kind of overweight, and then the other one had a jerry curl, and he would sell to the kid. You don't remember this?
I never encountered that guy.
It was so funny. Yeah, I got in his car one time and he drove me around, and that was the first time I ever heard a Ghetto Boys album. Is he was because I was here for summer school or something, and he dropped me off somewhere, and then I remember this dude was like selling, come on, this is like 31 years ago, so yeah. I'm not snitching on him or whatever, but one of the janitors was selling dope to the kids. And it was just, the other thing is, Pat, did you ever watch 90210 and then think, how the or you watch Saved by the Bell and you're like, how is that their high school experience? Did you ever think that?
It just seemed very fake or television-y, but I mean, people really did that.
It was so, like, the idea that, like, because I remember the same Coach Reese. Coach Reese, he played at San Diego State, and he was our freshman football coach. Coach Reese and I one time were having a conversation in front of the principal's office, just having a conversation. And my nickname in high school was Soul Train, because my last name's Sartain. And so he would say, hey, what's going on, Soul Train? We're having a conversation, and this fight starts breaking out. Do you remember what they used to do? In the biggest gang around this place is called ESL, Eastside Locos.
Eastside Locos, puro Eastside.
And the Eastside Locos, they were jumping a guy in. Do you remember what they used to use when they would jump a guy in? Do you remember? What they put on their hand? They would take the locks from their locker, and they would put the lock around their middle knuckle, and they would beat this guy. They wouldn't hit him in the head generally, but they would jump a guy in. This is jail long. This is we used to call it jail long.
Jail. Go to jail for a long time.
We go to jail for a long time. JL long. That's what we kids. Yeah, you go to jail long, then you go to jail. You know, dude, I heard there's a tunnel between the two buildings, between Woodrow and jail long, that goes underground. I've never seen it, but I heard there's a tunnel down there. Anyway, so. We were just having a conversation.
Tunnels.
We're having this conversation, and then all of a sudden the Eastside Locos start jumping this guy in right in front of the principal's office, and just start beating his ass like right there. And I remember Coach Reese looks at me, he starts grabbing one of them, he goes, Soul Train, go to class. He goes, Soul Train, go to class. And it's funny because years later, me and Coach Reese are like friends on Facebook. After all this happened, but this neighborhood used to just be like, the thing is, when you're living in it, it's like trying to explain to a fish what water is. Like, when you're living it, this is what I thought everyone's high school experience was like. I thought everyone had metal detectors. I thought everyone that went to high school with crack dealers. I thought, like, my two of my closest friends in high school were both selling crack while we were the seniors, and when I went to college, and I just assumed that this was everyone's experience. And then when I remember watching like Saved by the Bell in 90210 and thinking like, how, this can't be real. No one can have an experience like that. You mean you go to high school and like it's nice and people have nice cars? Dude, if I had a nice car, there's no f***ing way I would have taken my car to Woodrow Wilson in a million. Dude, look at this parking lot. Yo, this used to be the football field. What in the world?
There was some basketball courts?
Yeah, there was a basketball court here. Yeah. So I don't know if I ever told you guys the story about Harold Little. Harold Little ended up like winning the state. He ended up going to college, I believe, running the 400. Harold Little was the first guy in our class to be able to dunk when we were at JL Long. You remember this?
And I remember Harold.
So Harold, when we were 14, he dunked a basketball at the court that was just over here. Yeah. And once we saw him dunk the ball, you know what he did every day? He came back out there and dunked the ball. This is the example I use when I talk to women, and I'm like, hey, you know when you're talking to a guy, he's been poor his whole life, he starts making some money, and the first time he dates a playmate, what's he gonna do? He's gonna go date another playmate. And I use the Harold Little story because I'm like, when Harold Little dunked the ball, what do you think he did? You think he just, hey guys, thank you for watching me dunk the ball? It's like, no, he had a superpower now. Everybody would come out here like during lunch and watch him go dunk a basketball. And that's what happens to a lot of people. Like, you do this thing that gives you the superpower, you're gonna keep doing it over and over again. And it was really hard a lot of times when I would explain this to women. It's like, you think that you got a good guy whenever, dude, look at this gate. What is this, bro? This is so crazy. Like, all of this, none of this was here when I was
by the bell.
Yeah, this junior high looks beautiful. I wish I could go to this junior high. But yeah, it's like when you get a superpower, like all of a sudden you can fly or you can dunk or whatever, you're gonna keep using that thing over and over again. But anyway, so for me, like going back to what I said before, I remember I got picked on a ton in high school. I had scrawny little arms, wasn't a good athlete. One of my favorite things to do now for like cardio, as I go run routes, I play football with my friends, and I like to play basketball. I play basketball 3 or 4 days a week, because when I was in high school, I couldn't even hit the backboard. I was so uncoordinated. And so now, like sort of an overcompensation for that, I play basketball every day, even though I'm 47 years old. And I was getting picked on by girls a ton. And now when you see me when I go out, what do? I have 30, 40 girls with me. And so that's the reason why. Like I know where a lot of this came from. Instead of believing that all of this came from, what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, I drank way too much coffee before this. Well, instead of believing that all of this came from my own free will, it didn't come from my free will. It came because of the fact of where I grew up. The fact that I listened to UGK, or the fact that I listened to Ghetto Boys, the fact that I listened to 3 6 Mafia or whatever, that happened because of where I grew up. The fact that I'm a Dallas Mavericks fan, that's not on accident. I grew up in Dallas, Texas. I was born at Baylor Hospital in 1977. So like I grew up east of downtown Dallas. And so those things affect, and by the way, I'm a Texas Longhorn. That's not on accident either, right? I grew up around a lot of people that like the University of Texas. So you gotta ask yourself, what beliefs do you have that are truly yours? And what beliefs do you have that happened because of things that happened to you in your adolescence, or things that happened to you? Like again, I'll give you another couple examples. I eat a lot of red meat, right? We grew up in North Texas. Like it was a cultural thing. Like we watch American football. The idea, but Pat, can you imagine like growing up and not being a Cowboys fan? Like,
yeah, that was a prerequisite.
Yeah, there was
grandfather.
Yeah, of course, your grandfather watched the Cowboys. But like you understand the Super Bowls 3 and 4 years that the Cowboys won. Mm-hmm. Those were the 4 years I was in high school. Mm-hmm. So the idea of not watching American football wasn't even like a possibility to us. Like when we go to a barbecue place and they say, what kind of meat do you want? We don't even think about the term chicken. Like nobody here eats chicken. This is Texas. Yeah. Nobody here eats chicken.
Cow.
We eat cow. Like that's the only thing we eat. It's really interesting. Like when I go to other places, and also like whenever we asked people for Dr. Pepper, they look at us strange when we're in other parts of the country. Because back then, Dr. Pepper was made in Waco, Texas, and like when I go to California, or if I went to other places like that, we couldn't even find Dr. Pepper. It was very different. But where do these things come from? It comes from your upbringing. What part of your upbringing is still stuck to you right now? So my love for football, my love for rap music, my love for like urban lifestyle, those things come from it. Here's another one. What state in the Union had the first women with breast implants?
Texas?
That's correct. 1974, the Texas Medical Center had the first breast implants that they gave to a woman. There's a movie about it called Breast Man. And so when we grow up, Pat, I mean, is it common for us when we were growing up to see girls under the age of 20 with boob jobs?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it was, so the city, I believe, in the Union with the most women with breast implants per capita is San Antonio, Texas. And I grew up in Dallas and Austin, and so one of the things that you'll notice is like a lot of the girls I date now have boob jobs, and I think it's probably because when we grew up here, like, dude, every stripper we knew had a boob job back in the 90s and the 2000s.
Seemed pretty normal.
Yeah, it seems super normal here. Wow, look at this. This is so different.
I remember the stabbing, 7th grade.
Wait, where was the stabbing? I do remember a stabbing in 7th grade.
A girl stabbed another girl with a knife, and I don't remember what the
was it out here?
No, it was inside.
Okay, so this is one of the weird things.
They had metal detectors in middle school.
I haven't been in front of JL Long in probably 40 years. Now, here's the thing that's so crazy to me. I remember the front of this building, but I remember it being bigger. And the reason why I remember it being bigger is because I was smaller. I was 11, 12 years old, and I was here, and this tree I remember being gigantic. And like now I look at this, and this whole like front area seems smaller to me because of the fact that like I'm bigger now. That's really interesting.
I remember escaping right over there for the Dallas Cowboys victory parade. I was in middle school, and when everybody left.
So the first victory parade when the Cowboys won the Super Bowl in '92, there was remember all the fires? Like somebody threw like a Molotov cocktail out on the street or something like that. Do you remember this?
It was total pandemonium.
Yeah, like the whole city, it was just nothing but chaos for that first Super Bowl parade. Yeah, it was pretty nuts, man. So anyway, yeah, it's really weird being in front of Long here. You see these houses, these nice little houses across the street. Here's the other thing that's crazy, is that because of gentrification, this is a good neighborhood now. This was not a good neighborhood when we were growing up. There's no way, I don't think in probably 95, you and I would even be doing this right now. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It was very different, like just walking around with an expensive piece of equipment with our car parked here. I wouldn't even have done this, 30 years ago. So it's pretty interesting watching this. Are there any things that proclivities, like you grew up around a lot of dudes that smoke weed?
Yeah, no, I still smoke weed. I remember leaving Long and going back there behind those houses over there, and there was an Indian, what was he? He was like the truant officer, and he was stalking us, and we were running down that alley. I remember him coming after us. We got away, but I do remember leaving the school a lot. I didn't spend a lot of time here.
Do you remember the parties that we used to have, like out behind
Williamson Park? Yeah, out in the field. Yeah. Keg parties. Yeah. The cops show up and they're holding a girl up the keg stand. Oh, it's the cops. Yeah. They just drop her and run.
So back then, this area of Texas is covered in trees. We have a lot of trees. It's not like Alabama, Louisiana, where they have these really tall trees. We have a lot of trees that are like 20, 30 feet tall. Like the entire city of Dallas is kind of covered in trees that look like this. And so we would have these parties out in these parks. One time, you remember we had one, behind the Home Depot up there on like Walnut Hill? Did you ever go to those parties?
I think so.
Okay. We would have these keg parties out at Williamson Park and different places like that. And then when the cops came, we would just run into the forest. We'd run into the woods. Yeah, and the cops would never catch us. Like often, like if I had a white t-shirt on, I would take the shirt off, and then we would just take off and run.
We were trained to run from the police at a very early age.
Bro, we ran from the cops.
It was like a sport. It was like a sporting activity.
Okay, we're gonna walk on the oh wow, look at this. Look at the parking lot, how they have all the paintings here. This is the parking lot where I had a 1983 Nissan Maxima. I had that. That was my first car. Yeah. And it had like several 100,000 miles on it. It was my mom's car previously. And I used to park right here, and we remember we used to write on each other's car with the shoe polish. Yeah. And mine said, so I was in high school when Selena died. You remember this?
Yeah.
R.I.P. And R.I.P. Selena. But here's the thing. What else happened when I was in high school? Kurt Cobain died. Yeah. And Eazy-E died. You remember that? Yeah. And so we had I remember those RIPs for all three of those people while we were in high school. What else? Oh, this is the teacher's parking lot. Oh, this is the teacher. Okay, I don't think this was the teacher's parking lot before. Wow, this is so different, because remember there's a door right here to go into the football field. This is gone.
The gym right on the other side of that door.
This is the outside of the gym right here, but there used to be a door right, oh no, it's over there.
Remember Mr. Steele?
Yeah, of course, Coach Steele, yeah.
Man, he was a hard ass boy. He would have you hold, when you f***ed up, he would have you hold up the wall. You'd be you'd be doing this number right here.
Yeah, I remember Coach Steele.
And then he'd put a first base on your arms where you'd have to hold it up.
Yeah.
Oh, some good discipline. Oh, my knees ain't like they used to
be. Yo, did you was there a corporal? I remember getting spanked in elementary school, but I don't remember.
I was spanked in kindergarten. I remember that.
Wow, look at this, bro. This is totally different. This is nuts. Well, you probably can't see, but all of this looks completely different than it did when I was in high school. Like the original building, the facade looks the same, but then you can see there's expansions to it. You see right here, guys, the Woodrow Wilson, the little tracks here. See if you can see it. Yeah, those right there. That is pretty freaking cool. Yeah, this was not here before.
We've got paint now. Look at those high security doors right there.
Wow. So yeah, this whole entrance didn't exist back when we were here. But yeah, this is where we would come in and out whenever we go to football practice. We would come right here. This is where the majority of the students would come in and out, because right there is where the parking lot was in the football field. That front area that we showed you, that wasn't there before. There's something else though I want to show you. This is pretty awesome over here. This building. Hold on, let's keep going. Anyway, the thing is, like, so now ask yourself, did you, because of your upbringing, like for instance, well, you know, a lot of guys who are in my program, they have a hard time giving themselves permission because their parents told them to be quiet. Now, our parents really didn't have that issue. We didn't have a problem of being quiet all the time. We had a pretty extroverted household growing up. But I talked to a lot of guys, and like I said before, so a lot of them are Eastern European, or they're Indian, or they're Chinese, and they grew up in a very like homogenous society where nobody rocked the boat. And so if you had an opinion, you like sort of kept it to yourself. And when these guys grow up, all they care about is what other people think about them, right? It's really a big problem. And so you got to ask yourself, did your upbringing cause you to not give yourself permission to go talk to women, to go get the job that you always wanted, to get the degree you always wanted? Like for instance, everyone, Patrick, you didn't finish college. Everyone in our family finished college, like almost everyone. I can't think of like anybody, but you went to, what was it?
A&M Commerce.
Yeah, that's right. You went to A&M Commerce, and it wasn't for you.
No, I wasn't feeling it.
Yeah.
It was just a super country town. It just sucked. It was overrun by crickets.
Yeah, exactly. But like, it was one of these things where I know the reason why I ended up going to college and going up to UT. Part of the reason why is I was the only Longhorn in my family. Like there are some things that I did contrary to my family, because my entire family went to Southern Methodist University. I had several cousins. I have an uncle by marriage. My grandfather was the dean at Southern Methodist. From 70 to 75, he was the dean of the business school at Southern Methodist. My dad went to SMU, all of them, and then went to SMU. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go where everybody else was. I also wanted to leave Dallas, so I went to UT Austin. And then the other thing that happened was, sort of counter to my family, and not big to be rebellious, it's just I wanted to be the first person to do this. I'm the only person in my family to ever join the military. And part of that happened, I don't know, probably after watching 9/11 and having several of my frat brothers join the military, I wanted to join too. Anyway, this is something I want to show you guys. This building here, okay? This is where, during the football season, we would come and get our physicals. And this was a clinic that they built on Woodrow Wilson's campus in 1993. And the reason why they built it was because we had an epidemic of teenage pregnancy. Now, for those of you who probably don't remember this, teenage pregnancy was a massive, massive problem in this country in the 1990s. And one of the funny things that happened with social media is teenage pregnancy, gone. It's just gone. Like, this problem almost doesn't exist. Also, when we were growing up, underage drinking, which led to teenagers getting drunk and like getting into car wrecks. Teenagers don't even get driver's license anymore. Yeah. They all take Uber. It's gone. Like, these were massive problems we had in the 90s. They're gone now, completely gone. But like, this is crazy. We had I remember reading one statistic that at Adamson High School, something like almost 50% of the girls there got pregnant before they turned 18. Like at Woodrow, it was crazy. Like, do you remember seeing girls that were pregnant in high school like all the time? Guys, I'm not kidding. Like, we'd walk around in a day, you'd see 10, 15 girls pregnant in high school. It was very, very common. I mean, to be fair, it was mostly Hispanic culture where you saw that, but it was a very, very common occurrence back in the 90s. Yeah. Oh man, it's pretty nuts, like walking around here. I have not walked around this school like since I graduated, because the other thing is, a lot of people, you ask yourself, what was your junior high and high school experience like? For me, I give it 2 thumbs down. I did not enjoy high school at all. I loved college. College was great. One of the things that happened was really funny is when I started working in Austin, I probably never told you the story. Several of my high school classmates came and apologized to me after high school because they were so fucking mean. But to be fair, I talk too much. Which is ironic me saying this now. I was not a cool kid. Like, I was a tryhard. I was this massive tryhard growing up, and I don't blame them for not liking me. I really don't have a problem with some of the things that happened when I was in high school. Man, I would start arguments with people for no reason. I thought it was super unfair that I would tell a joke and the girls didn't like it, but some guy who was better looking than me would tell the same joke and all the girls would laugh. All those kind of things. Like, these are things that affected me and definitely changed my opinion and my viewpoint on the world, and it still affects me to this day. But the thing that the reason why I want to do this video, and the reason why I'm back here at home for Thanksgiving, from Vegas here in Dallas, is because I want you guys to all ask yourself these questions. Because I want you to understand a lot of what you believe, where you think you have free will and you came to these proclivities of your own volition? You didn't. Like, so ask yourself, why do I hate this person or like this person? Why do I like this kind of TV show, hate this kind of TV show? Why do I love this kind of music and not like this other kind of music? What is the reason for that? And instead of just believing that all of it came to you because of your own free will and your own taste, ask yourself, like, hey man, maybe I don't like this person that has a different political conviction from me because he grew up with a different reality than I did. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like question where you get the beliefs that you get from. Hold on, I want to see this front area. Oh dude, what is this? What is this? Let me see this. Oh, it's like a fundraiser? Oh, Wildcat Legends. Oh, that's pretty cool. Oh, one other thing. Woodrow Wilson High School, you can look it up. At the time, we were the only high school that did this. Now there's one other one in California. Only high school in the country at the time when I was going here that had 2 Heisman Trophy winners. Davey O'Brien, who went to Texas Christian University. He played quarterback. He was Heisman Trophy winner. And then also Tim Brown, who went to Notre Dame University, played for the Raiders. He also won the Heisman Trophy. They both went to high school here back in the day. So anyway, yeah. It's been really cool. We got a bunch of flowers down here. This is East Dallas. This is where we grew up. Just kind of like partially to remember, but partially to say, hey, like, why is it that I still like Jack's Hamburgers and Jake's? You know, I still eat these 2 burger places called Jake's and Jack's, these 2 competing hamburger places. Why do I like chicken fried steak so much? Why am I a Christian? Why do I listen to hip hop? Why do I like girls with big fake boobs? Why do I love football so much? Why am I so boisterous and outgoing? That's also kind of a Texas thing. I still say howdy, I still say ma'am and sir. Where do all these things come from? Do they come from my own free will, or did they come because of my upbringing, right? That's the thing. In fact, I mean, I don't know if you've ever investigated this for yourself, like why you feel the way you do about certain things.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that's all you got. I've come to these certain conclusions. I do believe that you can change, you know, and look at your what has made you the way you are and realize that, and if it's something you don't like or you don't really agree with and it's just your upbringing that made you feel that way and your life experiences have changed that, I mean, it's hard to change your instincts, but I think repetitive trying, you know, just getting into that habit of doing it over and over again, you can change.
Okay, so now this is the payoff here. What are the things that we can change? Like, how do you view money? Do you think that you have to spend a bunch of money to impress other people? Did you grow up in maybe you grew up in an environment where there was the kids that had like the new shoes and the nice car that would come to school? Maybe that affects you. Bilzerian talks about that in his book, The Setup, where he was like, he had friends that his dad had friends that would spend money, but his dad would never spend money, and that affected him. That meant when he got money, he was going to spend a bunch of money because his viewpoints about money changed because of his adolescence. Patrick and I grew up with our father was pretty successful as a financial planner, but we thought we were just like lower middle class. My dad, like, he never bought a new car. All of our cars had hundreds of thousands of miles on them. My dad owned part of a cable company. He was an investor, like, you know, some of the stocks. He owned part of a cable company. We didn't have cable. Am I lying?
Yeah,
we didn't have cable. Growing up, man, did we ever order a pizza? Our entire growing up, I did not know that you could order a pizza over the phone until I got to college. Never ordered takeout. What did we grow up on? The 99-cent menu at Wendy's.
Yeah.
We literally grew up on the 99-cent menu at Wendy's. Bro, and for those of you, like, yes, it used to be 99 cents.
Tampico orange juice.
Tampico orange juice. Big old gallon of Tampico. Like, we had, I'm not gonna lie, like, and I'm not trying to blame him, but we had some pretty bad eating habits growing up because we just ate nothing but fast food because it was what was cheap. And my dad, like, part of the reason why, like, I wear an Apple Watch and drive a car that has 100,000 miles on it is definitely because my dad, man, that Subaru had probably 300,000 miles on it. It was a 3-gear Subaru station wagon that had like 300,000 miles on it that he would take us to school. Like, when my grandfather died, I think we just kept his car. It had like 300,000 miles on it. We didn't go get any new cars, man. I had golly, man. Like I said, I had a 1983 Nissan Maxima that had several 100,000 miles on it. We'll just go back this way. That had several 100,000 miles on it. We just grew up not thinking that you needed to spend money on anything. And I'm by the way, very grateful for that.
Yeah, no, it is. It comes in handy. You don't have to spend money on anything.
Yeah. We grew up very much believing in, like, you know, just be grateful for what you got. Also, you know, my favorite hobbies. What was the other thing is I started playing Madden when it first first came out in '88. And I played every Madden since then. I've been playing Madden since I was in junior. I remember being in high school, junior high and high school, and beating the living shit out of everybody in Madden. I remember it was one of these things I was obsessed with. I would beat guys by 70. Nobody could beat me at Madden when I was in high school and junior high. Like, it wasn't even competitive for me. And then it wasn't until like '04 when you could play online that I started playing guys who were like way better than me. But where did that come from? That came from this area too, and also this part of my life too. But like other beliefs that we had. One of our eating habits, growing up on the 99-cent Wendy's menu. It was something that later on, like I remember when I was 19, I had like a 6-pack. By the time I was 26, I was just like flabby, and I didn't understand. I was in the military. I was in the worst shape of my life when I was in the military. And I remember what happened was I was eating a triple cheeseburger over at Whataburger because I thought that that's where you get your protein from.
Yeah.
You know? That's what happened. So you talked about change your views on money, right? The idea of me getting into sales, my father was into sales, and I always felt like it was try hard, you know? Yeah. And I always thought finance was something that was super boring. And then what did I end up doing? I ended up working as a stock option trader for 6-7 years, and now I work in sales. And I'm learning how to sell on stage. I'm learning a bunch of things about sales from several of my friends. I read Dan Kennedy, I read Alex Hormozi, I read different people like that, and that has really changed my viewpoint on those things. But where did those original like limiting beliefs come from? It came from my childhood. It came from my adolescence. So like, what other things do you believe in? What do you believe about money? What do you believe about women? The idea that like women would choose men that they thought were attractive, or like you could change the way how attractive you were to women. That wasn't something I understood in high school.
Yeah,
I didn't
never
understand.
Even thought about it.
Yeah, it's not something we ever considered. Our dad gave us a lot of advice on a lot of things, but never about women. Like that was never
too much. Yeah,
it was never a conversation we ever had. And so, what are those beliefs that you have? Those conversations that you have with your parents. Some people, the other thing is, my brother and I, we do not use profanity in front of our mom or dad. It's just something we don't do. I go home, like I'll date, different girls I'll date, I'll meet their family, and their relationship with their parents is totally different than with ours. Like, it's really funny. So here's another funny thing. Pat and I, when I see Pat, I don't think of him being 45 years old. Like in my mind, Pat's not 45 years old. And the irony is, I'm friends with Dan Bilzerian. Pat and Dan Bilzerian have the same birthday. But Pat is 1 year older than Dan. But in my mind, Pat is not older than Dan. And in fact, in my mind, Dan is older than me, right? But it's just one of these things where I still see Pat as being 21, 22 years old. I have a conversation with my mother, who was born in the 1940s, and we'll talk, when you consider this, mom lived through Martin Luther King's March on Washington. She was living in Washington, D.C. when that happened. She was alive during the moon landing. She was alive during Sputnik. She was alive during Vietnam. Have we ever had a conversation with her about any of those things?
No, I don't think she was paying attention.
No, it's not that she wasn't paying attention. She doesn't see us as people to have conversations. She sees us as 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
Even my mom, right before I left, she's like, wear a jacket. It's like, I'm 47 years old. She doesn't, and again, the way that she sees us has to do, and this is, your mothers just do this. It's not anything weird. This is a normal behavior. But when you consider things like that, how do you see people in your life? It's really different the way that you see them. I have friends of mine that see me still as they saw me in high school, and then you change as a person, you develop as a human being, and you ask yourself how did all these things growing up, how did they affect you? So the thing I would ask you to do in this, for this video, is ask yourself, what are the beliefs that you have, or the limiting beliefs that you got from growing up? One of the most dangerous ones is your parents telling you to conform and be quiet. And then that gets you into adulthood, and you don't know how to do anything on your own. You're still wearing the jeans that your mom bought you from Walmart, right? You don't know how to dress yourself. You don't know how to take care of yourself because you became too dependent on what other people thought about you. And you don't have any level of independence or free thinking. You took the job that your parents wanted. Maybe your parents came over here, they're first-generation immigrants, and your parents told you that you were going to be a lawyer or a doctor, or that you were going to be an accountant, right? Because that's what they wanted for you. Maybe you grew up with a really strict upbringing where that's what they told you. And then you had very limiting beliefs about what you could do and where your life path went. Personally, I wanted to break away from that. Like, I left the Baptist church and I ended up going to like a non-denominational Protestant church, and I brought my family with me to Fellowship Bible Church. So I actually changed denominations of Christianity, and I joined the military because nobody in my family had ever been in the military. I actually wanted to like do something a little different. I went to UT Austin because my whole family went to Southern Methodist, and I'm the only person in my family who doesn't drink. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in my family who's never been drunk. I'm pretty sure that's true. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure that's true. So anyway, what are the beliefs that you have in your life about money, about women, about success, about like things like sales? What books do you read? What are the things that you believe in your life that came from your adolescence and growing up? And then the other thing I would ask you guys to do is have empathy for people who don't believe the same things that you believe because of the way they grew up. Like, it is unfathomable to me that someone on purpose would go to Texas A&M University. That is just on purpose. Like, you end up at A&M because you couldn't get into UT. Like, but the reality is, I know people who are Aggies who love
agriculture.
Yeah,
mechanics.
Texas A&M. For those of you who don't know, it's a Texas School of Agriculture and Mechanics. It used to be an all-girls school, and then they changed it to Texas A&M, and they put the core in there. For those of you who don't know, like. Those of you who don't understand, like, for me, the idea of someone growing up and being a Philadelphia Eagles fan on purpose, why would you be an Eagles fan? But then I meet Eagles fans and like they hate Cowboys fans. And you have to empathize why people have the positions that they do. Don't hate them. Don't think that they're weird. Like, when you can do that, you can come to some level of understanding. Then you understand like Palestine and Israel. You understand Ukraine and Russia. You understand like where these conflicts come, Sunni and Shia. You understand these conflicts between different peoples, the Jews, the Gentiles, the Catholics, and the Protestants. You understand where these things come from. Instead of hating these people, you say, okay, what happened in their upbringing? What happened in their adolescence? What traumas did they go through that caused them to believe what they believed? And when you do that, you can transcend it. You also, we study a lot of evolutionary psychology. It's one of the main things I talk about in my course. In evolutionary psychology, one of the really stark realizations that you come to is there really isn't free will. Like, free will is kind of an illusion. Free will, like, for instance, I like sugar, salt, and fat, but it's not because of my own free will. It's because my ancestors liked sugar, salt, and fat. It was the easiest way for them to get calories into themselves, right? Well, when you put a bunch of donuts or pizza in front of us when we were kids, we would gorge them. And it was because our ancestors, they would never have that much food in front of them. This is the reason why obesity is such a problem in this country. Like, you have to understand, like, where did these proclivities come from? And you don't judge them, but because you recognize them, now you can overcome them. Got it? Okay, so my whole point is of us coming out here, whoever fucking picked on you in high school, and this happened to everybody, definitely happened to me, forgive your bullies. Say to yourself, hey man, what is it? What are the beliefs that I have from coming to a place like this? What are the beliefs that you have from the way your parents treated you, the way your cousins treated you? The way, especially junior high, bro. Junior high was the roughest. Of all the experiences, junior high is definitely the roughest because a lot of kids going through puberty and a lot of like, crazy. That's when I remember the most fights.
I got a son going through it now.
Yeah, junior high definitely like one of the craziest parts. But just ask yourself once again, like, what are the beliefs that you have now that came to you artificially, and stop believing that you believe all these things of your own free will, and say, okay, where did these things come from? Epistemology is kind of the study of knowledge. How did we come to believe the things that we believe? Identify these things in yourself and then say, what things can I change about the way I eat? What things can I change about the books I read? What things can I change about my beliefs about money? What things can I change about my beliefs about women? What things can I change in my beliefs about religion, politics, etc.? Last night I did a video, you saw it, Pat, I did 2.5 hours with TC Fleming called Ask a Liberal. Yeah, it's just, I legitimately, because I love TC, and he's one of the reasons why I started my podcast. TC's liberal and I'm conservative, and I wanted to sit there and I wanted to understand how he came to believe the things that he believed, and how I came to believe the things that I believe. It wasn't a debate. It was never a debate. It was how did I, before the election, every single person I talked to supported Trump and couldn't believe that anyone would vote for Kamala. And then when I did meet a Kamala supporter, every single person they talked to believed that Kamala was going to win by like 80% chance they were going to win, and they didn't know a single person who was going to vote for Donald Trump. How did we get to the point where we believe what we believed? And part of the reason why is because these social media apps are putting you in an echo chamber where they only surround you with people who believe what they believe. So anyway, My point is, one last time, when you have these beliefs, where do they come from? And then once you understand them, now you have the ability to transcend them, to move past them, so that you can truly make decisions of a free will. You can truly make decisions that you want to make instead of making decisions that your family made for you, that your friends made for you, or whatever bad habits came to you because of things that happened to you in your childhood. Recognize, hey man, I might be overcompensating for this or that. I had big legs growing up and I had skinny arms, so I do way more upper body workout than lower body. Like, that's something I know that happened to me because of my childhood. So ask yourself what those things are. Be open and honest to criticism. And listen, I'm open and honest to criticism. Like I said before, like, I'm a 47-year-old man that goes out with 25-year-old women, and I go to clubs with like 40, 50 girls. What am I doing here? Am I overcompensating? Yeah. My 20s that you guys were out partying, getting drunk, I spent in the U.S. military fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan. So now I'm making up for it. I know that's what I'm doing. I'm aware of it, but because I'm aware of it, then I can transcend it. So ask yourself what things that you can transcend. Pat, where can they find you?
Let's find me on Instagram at Patrick_Sartain.
Yes, for sure, guys. If you want some conspiracy theories,
we can talk about the health and the real motivating factors behind why you feel the way you do. There could be nefarious forces at risk that want to steer you in a direction, make you alone and obese and unhealthy.
So one other thing I want to point out is, like, Patrick and I don't agree on a lot of stuff, and same thing with me and TC when I did that discussion with him last night. When you go home for Thanksgiving, are you able to have conversations with people in your family that you don't agree with, or are you so sure that you're right and you need to be right so badly that you're no longer able to have conversations with people you disagree with, right? That's something that is a talent. Being able to have open, kind discussions where you don't insult with people that you don't agree with. Part of the ability to do that is, again, to transcend, why do I have the beliefs that I do? Where did my beliefs come from? And then say, okay, I was influenced by external stimuli, instead of thinking my beliefs are the only one that's right. Only people who are rational can be Dallas Cowboys fans. Only people that are rational can like the Texas Long. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How can
have malleability and an open mind?
How can anyone not like Southern hip hop? How can you possibly think West Coast or East Coast rap is better than Southern hip hop? That's crazy to me. But of course, it's not crazy. All of us have different beliefs based on where we grew up, based on the stimulus that we got when we grew up. So identify that stimulus, and I will see you guys in the next video.